Hello everyone, Loaded Buggy here, back with another Sunday chill commentary for you. And today is the first ever time, I think, that I actually have something prepared for a Sunday chill commentary. Usually I don't prepare anything, I just hit record and I riff for 8 to 10 minutes for the Sunday chill commentaries. But I did prepare something for today's video because I get a lot of questions, repeat questions, asking me what my favorite gun or map is on any particular old school Call of Duty. So I have taken the time, jotted down some notes on what the answer to those questions would be, and we're just gonna talk about it. So starting with, I would say, my favorite Call of Duty of all time, what you're seeing right in front of you right now, which is Call of Duty 4. My favorite gun in this game, and it really is two, and you can interchange. But I would say that, well, first I'll start with my favorite map, and I go back and forth on this all the time. But what I'm going to settle on is Strike. I think Strike is my favorite map in all of COD 4. In terms of its playability and how well it flows and just how much fun I tend to have on that map, it's towards the top. I love maps like Crash. I love maps like Backlot and Overgrown, but Strike is where my heart is. I think that it's probably my most my favorite map to play in the game. In terms of gun for Call of Duty 4, I would say that the G36C with a red dot, or an M4 carbine, however you want to say it, with a suppressor. Either of those two options could be my number one in terms of assault rifles. Number two for SMGs, I'll say, would probably be the 74U with no attachment. That's my any of those three guns I would say are my favorite gun in the game. But if I had to give it to one, I'd probably say the G36C with the red dot. Got a secondary of a Deagle, and then my usual perk setup would be Bandolier, Stopping Power, and Dead Silence. That's usually what I run in COD 4. That's one of my go-to classes, and it's just a super fun class to use in the game. But COD 4, it's pretty limited pool in terms of weapons that you can use in the game, so you can't go wrong with most of them. It's pretty balanced for the most part in terms of guns. But I would say the G36 at the end of the day is probably my favorite gun to use in the game. So, moving on to World at War. We have my favorite map in the game, I would probably say, is Castle. I think it's the one that's the most nostalgic for me, and the one that I almost never skip whenever it comes up. I just have a lot of fun on Castle for the most part. But World at War being my least played Call of Duty, it is kind of hard for me to pick, but I would say that Castle's probably my favorite map, or the most enjoyable map for me to play. In terms of guns in World at War, I would say that the Thompson with the extended mag, or the STG with the I don't even know, I think it's the aperture sight they call it in World at War. I would say that is probably those two guns are my go-to in terms of what I use most in that game. And then it doesn't really matter in terms of secondary. I think the pistols in World at War are pretty bad. And then my general perk setup would be the exact same thing as it is in COD 4. Bandolier, Stopping Power, Dead Silence. That's usually what I run. But I don't really have much more to say on World at War. Again, it's my least favorite, or my least played. I wouldn't say it's my least favorite, but it's my least played Call of Duty. But I still have a lot of fun with World at War, and that's what my usual setup would look like in that game. Modern Warfare 2. This is probably my most played Call of Duty. Second would be probably Black Ops 1. But my favorite map in Modern Warfare 2, it really is hard for me to pick. But I settled on Quarry. And I don't really know why I settled on Quarry. I go back and forth all the time on what my favorite map would be in Modern Warfare 2. But I think that Quarry just has a really good flow to it in terms of free-for-all and TDM. Back in the day, I also loved playing S&D on it. But I think it's a really well balanced and really fun map to play. I could also say that something like High Rise or Terminal, two absolutely iconic maps, would be my favorite too. But at the end of the day, I think that Quarry is one that I least rage at. High Rise, you can get spawn trapped, especially if you're playing something like Domination. You can get spawn trapped really bad on High Rise. And same thing with Terminal. You can get spawn trapped really bad, and it can be really frustrating. But it doesn't really tend to happen that much on Quarry. So I would say that that's probably my favorite map in the game. Now, Modern Warfare 2, I have an undisputed favorite gun in the game. There is no second option, and that's the FAMAS with the red dot. My secondary is almost always going to be the Spaz 12. You slap a foregrip on there or extended mags, whatever, doesn't matter. But the Spaz 12 is my favorite secondary in the game. I know it's sounding like I have a carbon copy class setup the Sandy Ravage did back in the day, but that's just what I ran. It's my favorite gun to use in the game. When my shot is on, it is hard to beat the satisfaction that I get from the FAMAS with the red dot. In terms of the lethal, I almost always just run Semtex, and in every single game that I have mentioned so far, I will pretty much only use the concussion grenades. Obviously, World at War doesn't have that, so the flare is usually what my option is there. But for Modern Warfare 2, that's usually what I run, Semtex and concussion. And then for my perk setup, Sleight of Hand Pro, Stopping Power Pro, Sit Rep Pro, whenever I had it unlocked. I then prestiged. I lost Sit Rep Pro, so now I default to Ninja Pro just because Sit Rep is really, really obnoxious to get in Modern Warfare 2 without boosting. It takes ages. But back in the day, whenever I did have it unlocked, Sit Rep Pro was my go-to all the time. In terms of kill streaks in that game, I tend to run the 5.79. That was usually my preferred setup. I don't really like to be taken out and put into a chopper gun or an AC-130 unless I'm going for nukes. But I usually would just run the Predator Missile, Harrier, and Pavlo setup. That was my favorite setup. Moving on to Black Ops 1. This is another one where there's so many good maps in the game, it's really hard for me to pinpoint what I would say my favorite is. But I think one of the most underrated and the one that I pretty much never skip ever whenever I play Black Ops 1 is Grid. Grid is another one that's just a really well-balanced map, in my opinion. It plays really well on S&D. It plays really well on TDM and free-for-all, and I just tend to have a lot of fun on Grid. But I also love maps like Summit and Firing Range. Nuketown's fine too. I like Cracked, but I would say at the end of the day, if I had to pick one that I would say is my favorite in the game, I think I would give it to Grid. Grid is just a really, really good map, and I have a ton of fun playing it. Favorite gun, this is another one that's undisputed for me, the AUG with extended mag, secondary using the Python and dual wield. That setup right there, primary, secondary, is my favorite setup to use in Black Ops 1. If I had to name a second option, I would say the Spaz 12 with the suppressor. But if we're picking one, I'm gonna choose the AUG all day. In terms of my equipment in that game, I almost always use the jammer in Black Ops 1. Kill streaks, I'm a 3-4-8 type of guy. I don't like the distraction of kill streaks. If I can get a really good gun streak going, that's far more interesting to me. So I will tend to run a UAV, counter UAV, and then a Blackbird. If I'm feeling a little bit like I want some air support, I might put an attack chopper on there instead of the Blackbird, run a 3-4-7. And then in terms of perk setup, I will almost always run Scavenger, Sleight of Hand, Tac Mask Pro if I'm playing something like Free For All or TDM. If I'm playing objective like Domination, then I'll swap out Scavenger and I'll put Flak Jacket Pro on instead. That is like the GOAT. That is the greatest. The Flak Jacket Pro and Tac Mask Pro is one of the most overpowered and underutilized perk setups in Black Ops 1. Moving on to Modern Warfare 3, I need to speed up a little bit here. I would say my favorite map for sure is Seatown. I love Seatown. Favorite gun to use in the game, PP90 M1 with the extended mag and rapid fire, of course, using the 2 attachment proficiency. Gotta use the dual Scorpion secondary options. In terms of kill streak setup, specialist all day long, a variety of different ways I could set that up. But my base perks I usually use is Scavenger, Assassin, and Sit Rep. And then again, I'm using specialist, so I'll throw some Sleight of Hand on as my first perk option to get some fast reloading in. And then, of course, the Semtex and Concussion Grenade on there as well. Black Ops 2. I think I'm a little bit of a wild card here because my favorite map is a pretty common one, and that's Standoff. Standoff is for sure my favorite map in the game. I like Nuketown 2025. I like Raid, but Standoff is just another one that whenever I'm playing it, it's always a good time, and I do not rage unless someone's playing like an absolute goon. Otherwise, the Standoff is just good fun for me. And then lastly, my gun setup, KSG-12 for the extended mag, TAC 45 pistol, flak jacket, scavenger, and dexterity is my usual setup there. And then kill streak, I usually just run a 3-4, just UAV, counter UAV, and spam it all day long. It is so fun. I used to love that setup, but KSG-12 is the most satisfying gun to use in Call of Duty history, I think. Well, hopefully that answers your questions, because I am stopping there. COD 4 or Black Ops 2, favorite maps, favorite guns. Now you guys know. If you enjoyed this commentary and you want to see more from me, click the subscribe button. If you haven't already, click the like on this video and leave a comment down below what your guys' favorite map and guns for these various games are. Thanks for watching this video. Bye now.